I want to get to this, though, so we haven't talked about it yet. We're on a football kick right now. Somebody texting in, Kirkers is an overpaid average quarterback. No reason to keep paying him money for that, elite money for that, especially one that is coming off an Achilles injury at his age. Minnesota did the right thing. Moving on from Cousins, I would say every quarterback in the NFL is overpaid, outside of, Patrick Mahomes, who wasn't overpaid. So you have to pay an arm and a leg for these guys. And let's revisit this in 3 years when they draft J.J. McCarthy with the 3rd overall pick.
I think the thing, we talked about Kirkers, I think it was the week before you got back when he got signed by the Falcons. And my thing, we've debated Kirk Cousins probably too much on this show, but
never enough.
The one thing I did say was, at what point are the expectations going to be the same as every other $50 million quarterback? He does kind of get away with sneaking in of, he's top 15, top 12, and it's just...
I mean, he's top 10. He's top 10 quarterback.
He has one playoff win.
He's a top 10 quarterback.
I mean, we destroy Dak Prescott in the media if he doesn't win a playoff game, and Kirkers largely doesn't, and it's just interesting to me. This isn't no longer, he's middle of the road, and he's okay, but he's not bad. You need to get to a conference championship. At some point, he needs to have the same standards as all of these other... He's got the 5th most money ever earned.
He's going to happen in Atlanta. He's finally got the weapons he needs.
Okay.
And the defense and the offensive line.
He had
Bijan Robinson and ketchup.
He had all of that in Minnesota, and it got
No, he did. Their defense was terrible.
Well, their defense wasn't terrible at the beginning of his tenure in Minnesota. It got bad at the back end of that for sure, and that way they beat the Saints in that one year.
Mm-hmm.
When you get paid like this, man, it can't just be, he's good. Are you not going to have a good quarterback and then not have expectation the way we do on the other quarterbacks?
I mean, you're totally fair on that. My point for Minnesota would be, what's your alternative?
Oh, I have no idea what Minnesota's going to do.
Your alternative is now you're going to go draft. You're going to trade up 2 first-round picks to move up because you don't have a good enough pick to go get a guy unless you're okay sitting at, where are they, 11 in the draft, somewhere in there?
11, yeah.
So either you sit at 11 and you take whatever scraps are left over at that position, or you're going to utilize draft capital, which you desperately need to build your team, to go get a guy who is a complete question mark. That's your alternative.
And maybe we read different things, but it sure felt like the noise was that he wanted to leave, that he was kind of eyeing Atlanta and kind of mentally put himself as a Falcon more so than how can I come back as a Viking?
I know also the intel in Minnesota said that Kevin O'Connell desperately wanted him back.
I believe
the general manager and the owner hadn't wanted nothing to do with him. They were ready to move on.
I believe both. I definitely see why coaches. Shanahan has not been on the record, but clearly loves him some Kirk Cousins. O'Connell's one of the highly regarded offensive guys. Loved him some Kirk Cousins. I get it. You want stability at quarterback. You want guys that you feel like you can rely on. But I also understand the other side of that, the general manager side of what are we going to get from this? Are we just going to be capped out at Wild Card Weekend and never win? It kind of feels like you're accepting being middle of the road, which is okay, but I'm putting Kirkers in Atlanta. I'm officially there, and you need to get to an NFC title game. You getting paid like this? Go win multiple playoff games, please.
Yeah, the only counterpoint I make to that is you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you have a guy who is good at that position, you have to overpay in order to keep him, right?
I agree.
That's
with you
the only choice that you have. You either start all over, and Dallas is going to go through this next year. You're going to have to pay Dak Prescott $60 million a year.
It's going to get spendy.
It's insane, right? Is Brock Purdy a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins?
No.
Okay, Brock Purdy has 4 playoff wins in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
This is why the stat's ridiculous to me.
No, I'm not saying, look, wins should not be a quarterback-driven stat unless you're like Patrick Mahomes. And even then, it's
He's
the defense.
He's 1 of 1.
Right? But it's about, to me, the narrative. I'm talking about narrative, not action. And if we're going to place these expectations, Herbert's going to deal with this now with Harbaugh. What have you won? And some of this is ridiculous. It's the defense was elite, so Kansas City made the playoffs. Their offense says they shouldn't have made the playoffs.
Yeah, their defense carried them to a Super Bowl.
Defense carried them, and they made timely plays. But we do this to the traditional media does this to all of the other guys. Lamar, Josh Allen, Dak Prescott. We did it to Daniel Jones, for God's sakes. Patrick Mahomes, you name it. Largely, these guys get those. Even Purdy got it. You can't win with Purdy. Win. Yeah, you can't win that. Win. You can't get. You get there. Law. Okay. See, you can't win a Super Bowl. We do this with almost everybody except him.
See, and that's where I think we do it to Kirk Cousins. I just think you're too close to me. Kirk Cousins.
Well, I am. Yes,
you're in the room every day with a Kirk Cousins defender. That I think that narrative is out there. I think a lot of people said he got another fully guaranteed contract with Atlanta. Like you're really okay.
Yeah.
We're going to try this again.
We even did it at Stafford and Detroit, and then he finally won a Super Bowl in L.A. And it was like,
I think he's the prime example of this, though. This is why I always bring it up, and I just use Kirk Cousins as the example in the narrative. But like we did this with Matthew Stafford. He played for an incompetent organization for over a decade. He had how many playoff wins?
Zero in Detroit. Yeah,
he made the playoffs twice. Had zero playoff wins. But he had Calvin Johnson. Man, come on,
he did.
How do you not win? He leaves that organization, goes to a place where they know what they're doing with talent around him and an elite defense. And what happens in his first year? He wins a Super Bowl.
You're 100% right. Now this is where we will maybe split off into our separate take lane. When he got to L.A., I think we can all agree. We all said, "Oh damn, that was a great pickup for the Rams." Right now, Did I pick him to win the Super Bowl here? I surely didn't,
because we didn't trust Jared Goff, and we thought Stafford's better than Jared Goff.
We all
and
thought
he is better than Jared.
He
Goff.
is better than Jared Goff. Goff is a good player. We know Stafford. Stafford threw a no-look pass on the game-winning drive of a Super Bowl. That is insanity and skill at a level that you largely don't ever really see. But we all knew that when that happened, McVay might have had a guy that put him over the hump. I think Atlanta's clearly going to be better with Kirk over Ritter.
I mean, they won like 8 games last year with Desmond Ritter.
That's what I'm saying. He's going to a ready-made. He's got a defensive coach who has defensive pieces. Their defense was the better end of the ball, by the way. And he's got Drake London, and he's got Bijan Robinson. He's got Kyle Pitts. Like, they've got talented pieces. If they're at 8 wins last year, Kirkers puts him at what? At least 11? If you have good, healthy quarterback play, you're at least upping that by 2 to 3 games, and that's the thing is now the expectations are set. We knew when Stafford got to L.A. that could be great.
That's a fair
I don't know
point.
if it'll be great in Atlanta, but
See, I don't know,
quarterbacks is kind of, as you mentioned, the price tag creates this. Okay, you're getting this. You should achieve this.
I think we definitely viewed it as they're going to be better. I don't think that they went into that year as like they're definitely going to win a Super Bowl kind of category.
I didn't pick them to win.
We'll see if it works out, but he's an upgrade from Jared Goff. Mm-hmm. I think we all agreed on that. My larger point, though, and this is what I bring up to the listeners' point at the Vancouver Ford text line, I understand the sentiment against Kirk Cousins, and I understand why people have it about quarterbacks. My point is this is literally every quarterback in the NFL outside of maybe 3 or 4 guys. Right, like if you have Josh Allen, I know he hasn't won at the highest level, but he's Josh Allen. Like you're not saying is he overpaid, right? Lamar Jackson's won another MVP.
We're questioning both of these guys.
I know we are. I think I'm not. No, I think rational people are not. Most irrational people are. That's what we do, right? But like if Joe Burrow's your guy, you're like okay, like he's been to a Super Bowl and an AFC title game. Like sure he's got to stay healthy, but like are we overpaying him? Like you're not having that conversation. Outside of those guys, we have this with literally every other player.
Brock Purdy's going to be this pretty soon.
Brock Purdy's going to be it soon. Herbert's already it in LA. Wait till Trevor Lawrence gets his contract in Jacksonville. You mentioned Daniel Jones. We do it with him. I'm doing it with Jalen Hurts. Like, really? We gave him a contract that quickly. We do it with Dak Prescott. We're going to do it with Tua whenever he gets the deal.
Stroud is looming.
Like, we do this with all of them are overpaid. And it's not easy when you make $50 million to carry the rest of a roster. But you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Your only other option is to say, okay, we're not going to pay you. Let's start all over again. And this is what Minnesota's going to try. Now, I don't know if Kirk Cousins would have even re-signed there to your original point, but let's see it. Let's check in on this in 3 years. We'll see what Atlanta does with Kirk Cousins because they've tried the rookie quarterback route. It did not work out for them. Minnesota had Kirk Cousins. They made the playoffs. Only won the one playoff game, but they made it twice. Now let's see how it works when they trade assets to go get J.J. McCarthy.
The one thing I wonder, too, and I know we got to go, but the Minnesota part, I'd assume McConnell's pissed. Okay, you got to be pissed. You got to pivot out. Go find your guy. Who do you like? Let's trade up, right?
Does he have that decision-making power, though? That's the tough part.
I don't know how you're a general manager and you have an offensive-based coach and you don't say, who do you like when you watch the tape?
Yeah.
Outside of Mahomes and Brady in 2001, when we didn't care about rookie scale contracts the way we do now, how often do teams on the rookie scale contract win? Like, everybody talks about this. You got to win and capitalize when they're on when they're on the rookie.
Bengals came close.
They didn't.
But they didn't get it done.
And
I think they have one more year before the Burrow extension maybe fully kicks in.
But my point is, look how almost impossible this feels to accomplish and how everybody just talks about it as if it's normal and done all the time.
Yeah.
It largely isn't. So, you might restart. You got a guy in a rookie scale contract. You pay Jefferson, a bunch of other guys. That doesn't mean you're going to advance even to the Super Bowl, let alone win one. It largely doesn't happen.
Yeah, Brock Purdy's probably the only, like, the next candidate, and C.J. Stroud will be the next two we'll watch over because Purdy's got like one more year, and then you got to work on his extension. Stroud will have like 2 more years,
I
and
think
then
they
you'll
got
start
Purdy for 2 more years because
2 more years.
This was his 2nd year, right? So you could stretch this conceivably to year 4 before you have to actually give him that deal.
And even if you do, they usually do a thing where it doesn't kick in until that contract runs out. So you got another year of cap flexibility, if you will. So I'm with you, though, on the overall point. It's not easy to do. We act like every team should do it.
Super delayed, but I'm kind of glad we finally had our Kirkers conversation.
We had to have
you
that.
weren't here when it happened, and I'm like, damn it, man. Of all the times this to happen.
I don't like their jerseys. I've never liked the Atlanta Falcons. Now I have to be a Falcon fan. Can
I don't
we go
like
back
the
to the
ATL.
throwbacks?
Yeah.
Can we do the throwbacks?
Yeah.
I'll dirty bird it.
We can agree on that for
Okay,
sure.
dirty bird it.